Ladies and gentlemen, today on the Keith Andrew Network, it is Season 9, Episode 815. Today, we get to sit down with the beautiful and talented Jennifer Nevel. That's right, Jennifer Nevel was a guest on the Keith Andrew Network. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. So let's get to it. As I always say, catch you later. Now, the first thing I want to start off is, what is the Keith Andrew Network? What is the Keith Andrew Network in the catchphrase? The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example of people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities that never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So prove to them you can still amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. That being said, now tell our audience a little about yourself. You mentioned you're a teacher, songwriter, and an upcoming professional singer. So that's really amazing that you're making the jump from teaching to going in the entertainment world. So that's going to be my first question for you. Is how long have you been a teacher, and when did you make the decision, say, you know what, teaching's nice, but I want to make the transition to the entertainment world?
Well, I've been teaching. This is my 21st year teaching, and I enjoy teaching. I am a person who, I admire your show just from what your introduction states, like break the stigma pretty much. I myself deal with anxiety and depression, and a former colleague of mine lost her son to suicide a few years ago, and I joined a committee to help fight the stigma against mental health and break the labels. And she was looking for a song to add to her presentation going into schools to talk to young people about mental health. And I basically just wrote from my own experience. So it's not really that I'm transitioning into the music field. I mean, I still enjoy my job as a teacher, but singing has become a big passion in my life. And so I took some of my own life experiences and decided to speak out about them and create some music.
No, absolutely. Don't be like Taylor Swift, who writes songs about her boyfriends or anything. But it's always good to use life experiences, because that's what we go through, and it shapes you into the better person that you want to be, a better version of the person you want to be.
I absolutely agree with that. And the thing is that by sharing our own stories, we're teaching other people that they are not alone in this world, and that you can pretty much overcome anything if you talk about it instead of hiding from it and being ashamed of being different. Everybody's different. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. We all have things that maybe we're not able to embrace so easily in ourselves because the way society looks at others who struggle with certain things. But by talking about it and being so open, it really shows others that, hey, that person did this, so can I. And then somebody else comes outside their comfort zone and tries to move forward and gain that confidence that they wouldn't have had we not started to share our own journeys.
No, absolutely. Now, I'm going to ask you some questions for high school, but one thing I do want to promote, sorry, that's why I catch my breath.
It's okay.
My thing is, I just recently did an episode like half hour ago, so my mind's still racing. So I don't want to ask the same as repetitive questions. Also, I just got a complete brain fart. It's funny.
We all have that.
It's funny because I was playing with my niece. We're playing Uno, and she asked me something. I just said, "I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart." And she said, "What is a brain fart? Does that mean your brain farts?"
How old is your niece?
I'm 7.
Okay, so that makes sense why she would ask that question.
It's true, you're cuter when you're that age.
Yes, they're very cute at that age.
But the question I wanted to share with you is now we are doing, some projects on the Keith Andrew Network, some special events on June 5th. Nothing's in the works right now because it's like flicking, rocks against the wall, see if I make some noise, obviously. I'm going to interview the class of 2006. So far, no one's biting. Um, the following June 12th, it's my special WWE special reunion episode because I interviewed a bunch of wrestlers. So I'm like, okay, we're going to have everyone who I interviewed back on the Keith Andrew Network. We're going to do a reunion episode because I did a reunion episode for TNA Wrestling. I did one for WCW. I was like, let's do another special theme episode. And I was thinking, why not interview people I went to school with, but different years? So I'm going to interview people from 95, 96, 7. I'm in the works of talking to people from 1975, the 90s, in 2008. And I'm like, okay, well, the good news is I like giving people opportunities to be on the show. And at the same time, I strengthen my brand and awareness and I get myself out there more. So it's like, okay, so you work on your foundation and you're working on your numbers, plus giving people opportunities. I know I have a fat neck, like giving people opportunities at the same time. So it's a little of, I hate the expression, killing two birds with one stone. In this case, it's free. I want to be remembered to do something that's interesting, spontaneous. I want someone, for an example, when I approached you to be on the show, I would say, hey, I didn't know this guy through a hole in the wall, but he was very thankful and very generous to give me an opportunity to be on a show, hear his story, and know what she's about. So it's pretty much just like that. But the next thing I saw on your Facebook was very interesting is you went to SUNY New Paltz.
Yes, I did.
What did you major in?
So I actually started out at Orange County Community College. I did 2 years there and I got an associate's degree. I was studying to be an elementary education teacher and I had a concentration in math. And then from OC, which is Orange County Community College, I transferred to New Paltz and continued my education to study to be an elementary school teacher. And then I graduated in 1999 from there. And then I returned to SUNY New Paltz to get my master's degree in special education.
And that's why you're on my show. And also you're pulling up with me as well. But I'm like, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, SUNY New Paltz is a beautiful town. We always go to the Ulster County Fair. I don't know how long it's been there, but there's a restaurant called the Gilded Otter.
Yep, I've been there before. They have good food.
Absolutely. The Ulster County Fair is really great. But one thing I realized about the Ulster County Fair over the past year or so, more rides, less tents. And it's kind of like, it's in the idea to go get yourself out there and, and network. Tell you a funny story. My parents said they can't take me anywhere because I always make a scene. Not saying, but I always embarrass myself. We went to the Ulster County Fair, and there's this one woman that was selling this glass artwork, and it looked really nice. So I said, did you make that? A stupid question, right? Did you make this? And she said, yes, he did. I made this by hand. It was a lot of hours and practice, but I made it. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I would like to have you on my talk show. Do you have a business card? And at that point, I heard, and it's like, there's a place and a time for everything, but this isn't time for you to just ask random people for their business cards. So Yeah, so when I see an opportunity, like that's something really interesting. It was beautiful. It was like this glass thing, and it was clear. It had like this markings in it. It was green. It was really nice. And she mentioned she was a glass maker. And I was like, well, I haven't had a glass maker on the show before. Wouldn't that be really interesting? But, this just to giving you a little highlight of me. But the
Well,
question,
I think that's pretty awesome that you asked for her business card because you know what? That takes a lot of bravery. Many people would not do that. I think that's awesome. And I'll tell you that my parents used to tell me I used to make a scene all the time too. I think sometimes it's other people's judgments that we could live without. Even sad to say, even our own family sometimes.
I was always told, I had diarrhea of the mouth.
Me too. Me too.
So the other question I want to ask you, then I'm going to take a quick commercial break, is were you a study nerd or party animal? Because New Paltz is being known for being a party town.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I went to New Paltz, I was already engaged to be married to my husband, who I'm no longer with. But I was engaged to be married. And so I lived on campus for one semester. Like I said, I was a transfer student, and he was my fiance at the time. He lived 15 minutes away in a town called Walkill. And so I really didn't party because he was not a partier and he lived 10 minutes away. So I hung out with him more than I did anything else. I did study, but I wouldn't say that I studied I wasn't like a book rat, I guess they say. I wasn't always with my head in the books. I guess I was kind of in the middle. So I would socialize just a little bit, hang out with him, and then do whatever I needed to do to pass my classes and do well.
No, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about social media that make you or break you and disabilities when we come back. Now we're back from the KeithAndrewNetWork Network break. To follow it is brought to you by HB Gibson. If you're into entertainment and video gaming, definitely check out HB Gibson. Also, during this quarantine time, for me, I know I have a fat neck and I'm losing battle of trying to lose it. If you're into fitness, eating healthy, drinking healthy, I don't know how you're supposed to drink healthy, but anyway, it's not about that type of drinking. But if you like eating and drinking healthy, definitely check out Life of a Fighter. Importantly, tonight, live on the USA Network, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, 3-hour difference, yes, 5 o'clock Pacific. It's WWE NXT. But if you're a big wrestling fan, definitely check that out. And subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network. We have tons of great comments and feedbacks from our guests and content that are in the work. But the last question I want to ask you before we ask the hard-hitting ones is I like this stuff. I'm a loser. You may know where this is going. When you were in high school and college, were you ever a cheerleader? And did you ever do one of those human pyramids?
Do you know that I was not a cheerleader in high school? I did do cheerleading when I was little. I did Pop Warner cheerleading. I also did cheerleading when I was in 7th grade, and I did not like it because some of the girls were just too stuck up for me to be with. um, so I didn't feel like I fit in with the cheerleading crowd, and I gave up cheerleading and switched over to other sports for the rest of middle school and all of high school. Yes, I have done some pyramids in the past just for fun.
I love that stuff. I'm a loser.
No, I wouldn't call you a loser.
So the next one I want to ask you is obviously the theme of the show is about disabilities. As being a special education teacher, who inspired you to become a teacher and to work with people with special needs?
Do you know, that's a hard question to answer. I honestly don't even remember why I chose to go into teaching, if I'm being completely honest. I know when I was a teenager, I was not really focusing on school, not because I was out partying, but I was into working and sports and boys, and school just wasn't my priority. My mother was also very sick when I was in high school, and I didn't get to go on any college tours. And I think I was just like, oh, well, I'll just go into teaching. It's kind of funny, but I really do enjoy it. And when I decided to go for my master's degree in special education, it was really not something I was considering again. It was more because my advisor was like, well, it'll open up more opportunities for you. And so that's what I ended up doing. Initially, I went to school for elementary education, and lo and behold, I could not get a job as an elementary school teacher. Got a job in a high school math position because I took some state tests that allowed me to teach high school level classes. And then I got my master's in special ed, and I've been teaching in special education since 2007 now. And I really actually enjoy it just because working with students and seeing like I've learned how to do things a little differently, not because I have a learning disability, but because I just struggled through things. And then I learned different ways to do it. And so to be able to teach different strategies to my students and let the light go on in their brain to see something, to see that light go off is just like amazing. So, um, I really do like working with this population, even though I wasn't so sure whether I would love it or not.
No, I hear you. You know, for me, for an example, my father is one of the best teachers you would ever have and meet. And my eldest brother is a teacher too. Everyone else decided not to be a teacher. I wanted to try to be a teacher because I like standing in front of people. And I really wish the shirt was too tight. Anyway, I wanted to be a teacher, but the thing is that I wasn't qualified because you obviously know as a teacher, you have something called an IEP diploma. And I had one of those, and like, I don't want to work on a car. I don't want to work in an old age home or this or learn a trade. And I'm like, well, if my dad can do it, I can do it too. Obviously, that was a big failure in that step because I couldn't go to college, can't get a BA or anything. I'm like, all right, well, I used one of my siblings for an inspiration. If he had his own radio station, I want to too. So I copied what he did in 2004. So going back, I asked you some of your favorite years. But 2004, I created my own talk show in audio visual. And I was like, this is what I want to do. It's, I like being on the air. Of course, at the time, I wasn't taking it seriously. I was just experimenting. And then I got sick out of stupidity, retail bulk BS. Then I was sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to find something that makes me happy because I'm tired. I always said, I sit with the family and I say, my brother before me would say, for an example, I don't know what to do with my life. And my dad's like, go talk to him, go talk to her. They know people, put direction. I said, what about me? What about you? One, you don't shut up. Two, you piss people off. Three, you weren't you only have a high school level, can never go to college, and you're not qualified. So I said, screw it. I'm going to show you that I will accomplish my goals in life. And, I told the story so many times throughout the year, so it's kind of a little get boring to hear repeating it. A lot of people are like, do you listen to your self-talk? It's like, no, I try not to. But it's when someone says you can't, it gives you more motivation and says, I will prove you wrong. My brother said to me, I don't know how Keith does his show. I have a bachelor's in communications and I can't get a job, but he sits in his room interviewing complete strangers and I can't even get a freaking job. I'm like, well, because I have the heart and passion to do this every single day. If you want something, I had the mentality of I have a disability. I used to call it the boomerang effect, that I would throw it and I don't have to do this because I'm disabled. I don't have to do this because I get a free pass. And as the boomerang comes back in the opposite way and you don't catch it, you get whacked upside the head, you realize you just labeled yourself as an influence and you expect people to do things for you. And that's not how life works. You want something, get off your ass and say, you may be disabled, but I'm going to show you I'm capable of doing it. And for this June will be 8 years. And actually, a funny episode. We're going to do that in a second. But this year will be 8 years, and I'm showing look, 800 episodes plus.
Wow.
Doing it by myself. No one helps me with it. I promote my show. I find people. I advertise. I edit. And funny enough, I can't hold down a job, but I can do this right. Go figure, right? So I'm also off my train of thought. This June, on June 10th at 5 o'clock, it's going to be my 8-year anniversary. I would love to have you with us. But as I mentioned, that following Saturday, it's going to be special WWE episode. Try to get some high school reunions in there. But I'm going to pass the show over to you. But the last thing I want to ask you is, as a teacher, how do you feel about this subject? And as someone who wants to work in social media in the entertainment world, how do you feel about social media? Can it make you or break you? Because everything that you are a teacher. I don't know how social media interacts. I know they tell teachers not to use social media, but at the same time, you want to be a songwriter and singer, and I see that for you, and you have to use social media. So do you find a balance passing the show over to you?
Well, I will tell you that as an educator, it is frowned upon some of what you put on social media. Now, I tend to be the type of person that tries to keep it light on my social media pages, because technically, whether you're in education or at any age, like when you're looking for a job, your employers do have the right to go search through your social media, and they do have a right to not offer you a job or fire you from a job if they don't like what they see. I'm not very vocal in that respect of like saying anything that could get me in trouble. That's just because by nature I try to be a rule follower for the most part. In terms of like my music, yes, I do now need to actually do more on social media for the fact that I did write a song that is going to be used for a nonprofit organization, and there could be something big that comes from just the one song. I have so much more to write about my life, and that will come in time. But this one particular song, like, it could bring a lot of attention my way. So yeah, I do have to, in some respects, kind of maintain my social media at this point. Because my social media is revolving around mental health, and that's what my one song is about that's been released. I'm very much a mental health advocate at this point. And a few years ago, I did go into my boss's office, my principal, and I explained to him that this was where my journey was going. I didn't have any idea at that time I was going to be writing music. I just kind of said, this is what happened. This is what I'm starting to speak out about. I'm just letting you know, like, I'm being very public about it because, people don't want to find out about it like after the fact. And so I figured if I'm just upfront and say, this is where my journey is leading me, you may hear some stuff. You've heard it from me first. So
No,
I
I
figure
agree.
I figure if somebody wants to fire me for trying to save somebody's life by talking about mental health, then I'm in the wrong field if that's the case. And I don't think that's really the case. I'm just saying, like, obviously, other journeys could impact somebody's keeping their job or not. But if somebody says you can't be a teacher and talk about mental health, then I would probably move more to the mental health world because our world needs to break that stigma and we could save so many more lives.
But I think the biggest thing we need to do, not to talk about political things or anything, is get Cuomo and Blasio the hell out of New York City, because right now it's just a big freaking dumpster fire. But, we're going over to win it for the talk show. I just want to give my little piece on that. But wrapping up the talk show, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your honest opinion? How do you feel now? And what do you recommend it to other people?
Well, I honestly had no idea what to expect. But I think this is a really awesome thing that you're doing. And like I said, I love the message that you are putting out to the world that it does not matter whether you have a disability or not. You can accomplish anything you want as long as you put your mind to it. So I 100% support what you are doing in that respect.
No, absolutely. Now I have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up
Sure.
our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part two down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.